Welcome to another episode of Voices of Innovation, and I'm your host, Kopano Maruping. Today's episode, we are diving deep in with Mark and Brett Levy. Hi, Mark. Welcome.
Good morning. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too. Today is our last episode with the both of you. I know, exciting, eh? And in today's episode, we are going to talk about inclusive leadership. In the past, everyone said that leaders should lead from the front. But now you guys are saying lead next to each other, lead side by side. What does inclusive leadership mean to you personally?
I don't think you should differentiate side by side and by the front. And I could explain in my way. Leaders need to take responsibility, but enable their people alongside them. Nothing screams louder than being able to lift the boxes with your staff or your employees when you have to. But someone still needs to make decisions and give directions. So we're all for empowering people. I think Blue Label fosters leaders faster than most companies because we really spend a lot of time and effort giving the people the ability to grow in the organization. And their job is to do the same as we do to them, is to foster the next generation of leaders. So whilst you say it's, one's in front, but it's actually a side-by-side culture, a very flat structure. Everyone knows who the boss is, but everyone actually does what they're tasked to do. And therefore it works because no one really has to stand on ceremony. No one's got these egos involved where I'm bigger than you, therefore I don't have to do. There are delegations of authority to allow people to free up time to focus on something different. But I like and we've always loved the inclusiveness and the ability to share ideas, listen, take constructive input, but at the end of the day, someone needs to make a decision. So I think you need the ability to take the input in from all your employees or those employees that are in that circle of decision making. And then CEOs have to make decisions. Leaders have to make decisions. Sometimes, hopefully less and more, we make bad decisions, but they're informed decisions and we make mistakes. But we should fail quickly and get on with it. And then once those decisions are made, there's no I told you so, we're in. So even if we disagree on the decision and the vast majority did something different, I think the beauty about Blue Label is we've never said I told you so. And most times we've been winning, but when we lose, we need to be big boys and take those losses on the chin.
Very good. So who's the boss?
Ching chung chung.
And Brett, for you, inclusive leadership?
Yeah, I think I echo Mark's words entirely. I think that's the culture of what we do. But I think you always need a leader. Ultimately, in everything, you need a leader, a person who takes it on the chin, both good and bad, whatever it may be, a decision maker at the end of the day. Because otherwise things get lost. Actually, in translation, they get lost because no one's taking responsibility. So ultimately, there must always be a boss. There must always be a leader. And the inclusiveness is everything that goes around it. So it's not necessarily running alongside from the leadership. It's listening to what everyone has to say, taking in what everyone has to say alongside, hearing what they have to say, and not necessarily going with your own decision. A lot of the time going with what you hear and what they're saying. But yeah, I think it's a bit of both. I think you need the leader and you need to make sure everyone feels like they're included probably in the decision making, which they are. And therefore you have the leadership and you have the inclusion of the decisions that are being made.
I hear trust ringing a lot in this. So what role does accountability play and trust play in, developing these leaders?
I think I'll take this one. I think there's really different kinds of leaderships and management styles. There's definitely no right or wrong. I think it's really what works for you and works for your company. So this trust part is an interesting one because, in our world we really trust, we really give you the wings to fly, and we almost leave you alone. In other companies, what you'll find is actually a hybrid where they do the same, although they'll still have a boss over them who's following them more than what we would do. And then you have the third version, which is the boss more dictating and people just following. So It's really, in my opinion, probably one of three versions. Our version is the total trust point. And in many cases, it's worked extremely well for us. And in some cases, it's worked not so good for us, right? So there's not an ultimate solution for 100% of it, but it's what works for us. It's definitely what works for Blue Label. And I think in time, you start to adapt it a little bit. So it's not ultimate trust. It's in certain things, you might have a little bit more involvement. So I think in time for Blue Label, what it's coming to be is, I think, a bit of a hybrid, a lot of trust in it and a lot of oversight, or more oversight than there was before.
Great. I want to come back to the times it did not work with asking this question. How do you select a leader that you're like, this is the leader that I want to take to the next level as leaders when you're developing your CEOs? Because sometimes it does not work. You know, how do you do that selection process?
That's a great question, by the way. I think a lot of it is on gut. A lot of it is from working with people. And a lot of it is from talking to people around the people, or the person rather, that you're going to make the leader. So there's a lot of combinations that go into it, but a lot of it is gut, because you don't ultimately know how good a leader is going to be until you make them the leader. And I think we have a good experience of that in many things in this country and in business and in everything we do, right? So the ultimate success of a leader is shown once he is a leader. So everything that happens before comes from a number of things, of which a big thing is gut, a big thing is obviously experience of what they've done before, and the proof is in the pudding of what they've done. And what we like to try to do is actually talk to a lot of people in the separate divisions or whatever that it's going to take place in, because when you give, I'm going to use it, employees a chance to talk openly, sometimes you hear a lot of things you don't want to hear, but they're always good things to hear.
Maybe I can add to it. I suppose our organisation is a bit like a sports team. How do you select a captain of a cricket team? He's not necessarily the best player. He's not necessarily the best batsman or the best bowler or fielder, but he's generally a good all-rounder and he's a good leader. Now, one has to be careful when you appoint leaders, you don't set them up for failure. And we have made mistakes like that. Because you are the best bowler and you are so good at your job, you actually make him the captain and everything falls down because he's not skilled enough to run and manage and think for the rest. He was a good bowler. So one has to be careful, and we have made mistakes, and rather than pick names, just talk conceptually, where you have such good employees that are so good at their job and you want to give them more. You have to be careful of what more you give them, because you end up giving them sometimes, in many instances, stuff that they're not capable of doing because it's really outside of their realm. So yeah, I almost ask everyone, how do you pick a captain of a sports team? There's a lot of thought goes into it. The people like that person as a leader. The leader has to be disciplined in making the right choices, even though the masses might not like his choices, but must always be willing to do the good, the greater good for the organization.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you very much, Brett. That is very profound. I like that sporting use, because we always have this picture of if you're so good at something, then you get, flown through the ranks, but you might not even be ready yet, or you might not even be at that space. So having that link and that, mindset is quite important.
Look, mentoring becomes important, grooming people. So they may not be mature enough or smart enough today, but tomorrow they might be. So don't throw them today. Groom them, mentor them, and you know what you're trying to get that person to, and it might take a little bit longer. They might be a little bit more grieved because, people generally want to move up quicker. But if we've identified some, and we've got many cases where we have, the best decision we made was to delay the movement and rather get some more water under the bridge, more pain, because pain gives you very important lessons, more failures, not because we're advocating failures. Failures teach you more, as much as wins do. Actually, failures probably teach you more than wins do. Get some failures under the wind, make mistakes, and then when you get that opportunity, your learnings are so much, or your brain is so much more evolved and advanced, that when you're finally given that opportunity, I promise you, a year down the line, you would have failed. And we would have taken a good guy or a good girl and really messed up their, you can mess up a person's career because they're so bad at what they do. And it's very difficult to go backwards. It's very easy to go forwards. But when you take someone from there and you move them 3 steps back, it's a whole another drama. So yeah, I think we're a lot more conscious and careful in the way we're going to do things in moving people. But the opportunity exists to move. So don't let this conversation sound like it's a laboured process. It's not laboured. What might take a person a year, some might take a month. And the opportunity is to constantly evolve and grow and groom and look for more. I think too often we get comfortable. The aggressive nature of people should be always looking for more. Do your job, go find more to do. Because those are the people that what Brett was referring to just now, where the team talks. And so I always go to Kapana, she's always helpful. Those things don't go unnoticed. They might be out of sight, but they don't go unnoticed.
Sure, thank you very much. Now, on a bit of a lighter note. So, the business has grown so rapidly over the years. How do you maintain that closeness, that culture? How do you do that with now no longer 45 people? We've had this in the previous episodes, but now I want to know, in terms of inclusive leadership, how do you maintain that close-knit family unit with more people? I mean, we're just, I don't even know how many thousands right now.
So yeah, it's a great question because it's a challenge. I remember in the early days when we had our Madiba room, we used to sit down in December and we called it hand-to-hand combat and gave everyone a drink and their bonus check all at once, and everyone, it was a collective. But as you get bigger, you start not knowing all the names. It's quite difficult. It's sad because we preach and we play it's a family company, but it's sometimes virtually impossible to remember everyone's name, not because we don't want to. And that's why we're doing the birthday celebrations and all these things to try to breed back more familiarity. But I suppose it flows downwards. So we have a group of senior execs and we inculcate our culture and our belief to that grouping because we can't talk to everyone all the time. And their responsibilities, that same passion, that same willingness, that same inculcation of those morals that we have, it has to flow downwards. So I believe there's pockets that would keep until it gets right down to the bottom, because it's impossible for the top always to talk to the bottom. We can talk macro, but there has to be dissemination of this information along every journey. So when group sales have a function, that ethos, that ability needs to be displayed there. So it's essential we train the trainers, they train their trainers, and so it goes forth. And then it's up to every single staff member to passionately believe in what we do. And when they see someone down, it's their job to pick them up. It's not Brett and Mark's job. It's actually, you have the onus of responsibility vests with you as much as it does with us. Your job is to ensure, not because you're in HC or PET, I'm not sure sometimes, or wherever. Your job is the same as ours. Share the love, share the will, share the belief with everyone. And if someone's out of sorts, fix it. There's no reporting, fix it. And if you can't fix it, then go find help.
Brett, any last words from you?
No, that's good.
Thank you.
It's, by the way, it's the hardest thing in growing a business, that question, because you don't want to lose a culture of a business. And cultures are different, by the way. Every company has a different culture, but in Blue Label, its success is really its culture. You know, we might not be the smartest individually, but we're really smart as a team, and we really work together as a team. So to make sure that that continues to flow through the organization and monthly and yearly is without a doubt the hardest thing. And it keeps popping its head in different ways, not always positively, negatively. So I don't think it's an end. It's a continuous thing that goes on forever and ever, actually.
Thank you so much, Mark and Brett, for your insightful views on inclusive leadership. It's clear that at Blue Label Telecoms, leadership isn't just about delivering results through others, but about leading with others, ensuring that everyone feels a sense of belonging and has a stake in the company's success. As we close another episode of Voices of Innovation, I want to express my gratitude to Mark and Brett Levy for their time and candid discussions. The journey towards inclusive leadership is ongoing, and your experiences and perspectives are invaluable to our listeners. Until next time, this is Kopano Maruping signing off, reminding you to lead not just with authority, but with empathy and inclusion.